So this is our Xometry QuickBooks Best Practices event. And who we have joining us today is Lisa McCarthy. Let me move you guys real quick so we can read all the text. COO and co-founder of Out of the Box Technology, Intuit Elite Solution Provider, QuickBooks Enterprise Advanced Inventory Product Counsel for Intuit. Basically every Intuit or QuickBooks certification you could have, because actually wrote the QuickBooks certification for QuickBooks Pro accountants. So she's also a member of the Accountant and Advisor Customer Council for Intuit from 2006 to 2008, member Intuit Accounting Professionals Trainer and Writer Network, and original author for Intuit's Professional Advisor Certification courses. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. Very, very excited to have you, and almost ran out of breath there talking about all of your credentials for why you're a great guest and speaker to tell us about this. So thank you for joining.
Glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. And let's see, Dan, we do not have a slide for you, Dan. But
yeah, I don't even get a welcome slide.
Yeah, well,
but
I can verbally introduce you. So VP of our supplier marketing, specifically one of our savants around our financial products, and been really, really heavily involved in bringing a lot of our financial solutions to market. Yeah, you've been here, what, going on a year now?
Just about a year, yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the better years in Xometry history, all due to you being here. So no, but Dan is one of our experts in a lot of our financial products. So really excited for him to be here today and to see the discussion between Lisa and him. So speaking of those financial products and financial solutions, Dan, you want to?
Yeah, thanks, Adam. So thanks for the kind introduction, and thanks for all who have attended and still rolling in. I definitely see some familiar names from interactions, questions we've had, interactions with our products, etc. So to kind of kick off as a reminder or refresher, I think everybody who's attending today is probably already a pretty active user in Xometry Financial Services, but we currently have sort of three core financial services products out there. The first one is coming up on its 1-year anniversary, the Xometry Advance Card. This is the piece of plastic that hopefully most of you have in your wallets already. This is how Xometry places 30% of the value of every job you take through Xometry on your card, thus putting sort of 30% payment into your pockets to buy those raw materials and supplies, help you with rent and business operation costs immediately, really kind of our cash flow tool. As a reminder, the Advance Card can be used anywhere Visa is accepted, and it helps open the door to take on bigger jobs, right? So all of you are, hardworking machinists, and probably feel sort of the constraints of the capital requirements that a job that might be, $100,000 that, as a machinist you can do, but you'll need to go front 20, 30K of materials costs. The Advance Card is really there to help you with that and open those bigger jobs. And as a reminder, the Advance Card comes with no fees, no interest rates, no credit checks. Think of it as a gift card or a Starbucks card that refills every time you take a job from Xometry. Our next financial tool is a new one. We launched it about a month ago, called Deduct from Job. And this is really in response to your feedback as our partners as to what would make the Advance Card a better tool to use. And what we've done, if you have other credit cards or use an American Express or a Citibank card or any of those, you've probably seen a similar feature before, where we're able to after you've made a purchase with your Advance Card, you go into your Shop Finances portal, and you'll be able to see that purchase. Let's say $100 at Alro Metals, and you'll be able to say, take that $100 charge to Alro Metal and link it to this current job I'm working on, job 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that way, when it comes time to collecting the expense, we will not deduct the expense of $100 from Alabama Steel until we've paid you out for job 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this new feature allows you to recognize the expense at the same time you're receiving the payout, which we believe should be a huge boon to simplicity and solving cash flow issues. And then our final product, of course, is FastPay, which I believe many of our partners are using today. We advertise it as turning net 30 into net 3, but really it's net 1, where typically we're able to get you your money within 1 business day. There are variable fees for this based on when your payout is due, and also this is where we can also deduct any card deductions that you've linked to your jobs, showing all of the fees and payouts in one place so that you know what your payout will look like and what expenses are sort of getting taken care of all in one kind of simple calculator. And I would be remiss, Adam, if I didn't say one thing before we moved on. When it comes to deduct from job, the way the product works is you have about 7 days from the time the charge appears to link it to a job, or else we're going to deduct the expense in kind of the old behavior that you were probably used to prior to a month ago. So hopefully everyone will take advantage of this feature, and just remember that you've got about a week after the charge is recognized to link it to a job.
No, and I think that's a great call out, Dan. And thank you for the recap here of our financial solutions, because I know a lot of folks are using them. But if you see anything on here that is a product that you haven't used yet and you have some questions on, again, the chat or the Q&A is a great place to put it in there. So let's get on to our questions here. So what do I need to set up in QuickBooks? And answer from Lisa. Lisa, if you want to take
Sure.
this one and kind of get us started here.
Sure. So I want to give you a little background. So when I first met up with Xometry and they were explaining their business model, it took me a few minutes to comprehend what they were saying and translate that into how do I handle this from an accounting perspective as somebody that's using Xometry. And it took me a few minutes. I had to pull out my pen and paper and draw T accounts. So for anybody that does accounting on the event, you'll appreciate that. But it really is pretty simple. So we're going to run through a few slides and show you what needs to be done. But once you sign up for Xometry, there's 2 things you need to add to your QuickBooks. And the first thing is you want to create a new credit card account to use for purchasing. And you need a new customer and multiple jobs for each Xometry job that you take on. So if you want to click to the next screen, I can walk you through what some of that looks like. So there's some screenshots, and I think you're going to share the presentation with the folks after if they want it.
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
So
both the presentation and the recording.
Okay, so down in the bottom, you'll always see the steps. We have steps for both QBO and desktop. Most business owners are using QuickBooks in one way, shape, or another. And I do have instructions written out for both versions. This presentation is going to focus on the QuickBooks Online steps, but they're virtually identical, maybe just slightly different menus, but same exact concept in desktop. So the presentation, I think that they send out might include both, so you have access to both. But I'm focused on QBO, but feel free to ask me questions on either version of the software, depending on what you use. So the first thing you want to do when you're in QuickBooks, oh, can you go back?
Yep, sorry, I was clicking on the
Okay. So
there.
the first thing you want to do is hit that gear icon in the top right-hand corner, and then choose Chart of Accounts from the left. And then it's going to ask you what type of account do you want to add. So that account type is really important. You want to choose credit card and then give it a name. And I just use Xometry credit line because that's basically what you're getting with them. They're giving you an amount to spend, not to exceed, sort of like a credit line at the bank. So call it whatever you want, but this was my suggestion to use Xometry credit line as your account name. So that's the first part of the setup. If you can go to the next screen. Then the next thing you need to do is add your customer. So the customer is Xometry. That's who's going to pay you. That's who your customer is, even though you're doing it on behalf of another company. Xometry in this world is your customer. So you'd first add a customer from the sales tab, and then choose customers, click the new button, and first set up Xometry as your main company. And once that's done, then what you see in the screenshot is adding a job and making it a sub customer of Xometry so that you have your list organized by job. You don't have to, you could just track everything under Xometry, but I think it might get confusing if you do that. So I would highly recommend you use sub customer methodology to track things separately for each one. Go ahead and move to the next slide. Okay, so this is the surprising question and answer. And this is where I was struggling at the very beginning when they were explaining the business model is, what do I do when I have that $100,000 job and I'm going to get an advance of $30,000? Well, the answer is you really don't have to do anything. Think of it like a credit line with the bank. When you go get approved for a certain amount of credit, nothing happens from an accounting perspective until you start using the credit line. So just the fact that you're essentially preloaded or have that amount available to you for that job doesn't mean that an accounting transaction needs to take place. So it's there, it's available to you to use on that card, but if you don't use it, nothing happens. All right, so that's probably the biggest surprise in all of this, because everybody wants to try to record that first initial advance amount, and you don't need to.
Which has probably caused a vast majority of our confusion for our users, right? Is they feel like you need to record it, but you actually don't need to.
Well, I see, my day job is working with business owners in virtually every industry on the planet. If they're using QuickBooks, they're a client. And I have seen a lot of financials where the business owner isn't necessarily an accountant, and they try to represent their credit line with the bank on the financial statements. And we always have to undo that because it's not really a transaction yet. So, all right, so go ahead and move to the next slide. So the first question, once we've got this setup done with the credit card liability and the Xometry job set up in our system, the next thing is you want to record your purchases that you are using Xometry funds to pay for. So the answer on how to do that is you enter it as a purchase on the credit card. So there's two different ways to do that. If you want to click the next screen. So the first one is if you never entered it as a bill in your system as a vendor bill, and you just ran out and used the card to pay for something, you're going to click that new transaction button in the top corner, and then you're going to choose expense under vendors. And then the payment account is going to be that Xometry credit line, which is that new credit card account that we just set up. And you'll type in all the rest of your purchase details. You can get as complicated or as simple as you want. You can itemize it out and track inventory. You can just hit a general ledger account. So you put in your normal transaction details as if you were writing a check or entering a bill with whatever details you want. You can even attach it to a job. You can't really see it in this screenshot, but to the right of the amount on that bottom line, you could attach it to a job in the job list if that's something you want to track. So just enter it exactly like a normal purchase, except for you're choosing Xometry credit line as the payment account. So that's the first way to enter it. Let's go to the next screen. Now you may have put a bunch of bills in your system already, vendor bills, and now you're deciding which bills you want to pay using the Xometry credit line. So you would go to your pay bills window like you would even if you were paying with a checking account, but instead of choosing your checking account, you choose the Xometry credit line as your payment account. And then you check off what you want to pay, put in your amount, and hit save and close, and you're done. So that's how you record your purchases using the Xometry funds. Go to the next screen.
Lisa, I do want to, we've had one question so far in the Q&A.
Sure.
And you covered this earlier, but I just want to underline it for those that may be joining kind of throughout the presentation. Well, everything that you are displaying work for both QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks as a desktop app.
Yes.
So if you could just kind of reiterate that.
Yep. So we're going to send out the presentation after, and it will have screenshots of both. And if we have enough time and we want to show them that, if it's, I don't know if you hid the slides or not, but it's there, and the directions are almost identical. The screens just look slightly different, but you still do the exact same processes. The setup is the same. The processes are the same. It's just where you go in the software might look slightly different. So everything we're showing you is the same. You enter a credit card charge, or you pay a bill by credit card. That functionality is pretty much the same in desktop.
Perfect. Yeah. So I don't know that all the questions will be a softball one like that, but I wanted to put you off with an easy one. So awesome. So you wanted me to go to the next slide here?
Yep. Okay, so now we've recorded all the purchases that we wanted to use Xometry funds to pay for it. The next thing is, what do I do when I'm all done? How do I record the final sale? And so you do that the same way as if you sold to any other customer in your ecosystem. So nothing changes. It's just your sale is to the Xometry job. So go ahead and click next, and I'll show you a screen. So you're going to click the new transaction button. You're going to choose to create an invoice, and you're going to choose the Xometry customer and job as who you're selling to, and you'd put in the full amount of what the purchase or what the sale was for. So in the example of $100,000 job, you're going to put $100,000. So in this case, it's $3,500 is the total job. So go ahead and hit next. Then when you get paid, you're going to have to adjust your final payout. So the way you do that is you're going to receive payment in full. So in that case, the full $3,500, and then you'll deduct any liability for the purchases that you've already used their funds for. And if you ask for an early payout, then you would have to deduct the fees. So if you don't ask for an early payout, there's no fees to deduct. You're just deducting what they've already advanced you on the card. So this is a screen showing where you go into the receive payment window, you choose the Xometry job. We'll come back to that deposit to undeposited funds, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But you want to put in the full amount of $3,500 in this case, because that was the job. Now that undeposited funds, and this works the same in desktop as online, that's a special account that QuickBooks uses to gather the money you've received throughout the day into a single bucket and deposit it as a group. In this case, so let's forget Xometry for just one second. Let's pretend you're just doing business in your normal world, and you send out 10 invoices for the month, and on Tuesday, you come in after the holiday and 3 checks arrived in the mail, and you go into this screen and you post those checks against your open receivables. You're not going to run to the bank 3 times. You're going to likely take those 3 checks and prepare a deposit slip and group them together and take them to the bank as one total. That's what undeposited funds is used for. It allows you to post each customer payment separately, but then group them and take them to the bank as a group. So that's the meaning behind undeposited funds. But with Xometry, it's important to use that functionality because it allows us, even if you're just getting a single payment and you see just that one transaction hit your bank, it's not grouped with anything else, we still need to use undeposited funds in this screen. You cannot choose to deposit directly to your checking account because then the next screen won't work. And then you're going to be stuck trying to figure out how to deduct the fees. So you always want undeposited funds to be the deposit to account in this transaction, in this received payment transaction, whether you're on desktop or online, you want to use undeposited funds. If you don't see undeposited funds as an option when you're in QuickBooks Desktop, there's a preference to turn it on and make it the default. So that's just a quick preference that you have to turn on. But once it's on for Xometry transactions, even though they're going to the bank individually, you still need to use that option. Okay, I think I hammered that point. Sorry if it was over explanation, but
I think one more explanation would have been too much, but I felt like that was the perfect.
okay, good. Got that. I nailed it. Okay, so, well, people ask me, what is that? I don't understand that. And they always want to see it in their checking account. I'm like, no. You need to, in this case, we definitely need to use it. Okay, so click next so I can show them what happens next. All right, so now you've recorded the payment from Xometry in full, but that's not what hit your bank because you used the card maybe for that job or for multiple jobs and you weren't specifying to allocate in Xometry to a specific job. So they're going to deduct whatever you've already purchased on the card. So you're going to select that payment of $3,500 in this example, which was the full amount of the invoice. And then where it says down below received from, you're going to put that line item in as a negative. So whatever they deducted, so that first line shows Xometry credit line is the account, and you put the, in this case, 872.45, that would represent the amount that you had used of their funds already. And so you're only going to get funded the difference, the $2627.55. That's what you should see hit your bank account, that total at the bottom. So if you didn't request the funds early and you went with the normal schedule, the only deduction you would see is any purchases you had made using the Xometry card. If in fact you asked for the funds early and there was a fee, then you would put a second line with a negative, and the account would be interest expense or financing charges, something like that. And you put the amount of the fee as a negative. So the bottom line is that total should match at the bottom right-hand corner what actually hits your bank. Your customer invoice is paid off in full at the top. Any deductions are listed out and offsetting that Xometry credit line account as a negative. And that takes that account to zero. So the credit line goes up as you make purchases. And then when you get the final payout, it goes down, back down to zero. So if that was the last job you ever did for the month with Xometry and you had no outstanding other jobs, that account in your general ledger should be zero, the Xometry credit line.
Hopefully there's never a last job that someone.
No, I said for the month. Notice I qualified that for the month, the last job for the month. So go ahead, and I think that's all I have. If you go to the next screen, I think that's the end of my, so we can talk about this later. Do you want to open it up to a few more questions and then I can?
Yeah, so let's see. We've had a few in here just about, are we going to be providing the recording? And yes, we are. Thank you, Henry, for calling that one out. Jesse, actually, no question here, but he says, this is awesome. Exactly what I've been trying to figure out. So apparently you hit the nail on the head, Lisa, for exactly what we want to display here. But I think, Lisa, what we'll do is I'll put out a call. I think the next couple minutes are a great time to be putting your questions in here. I know that we just hit you with a lot of information, but if you've got anything where you want us to go back to a slide and explain it in a little bit more detail, or if you have a question specifically about one, now's a great time to put that in the chat. But while we're waiting on a few to come in, if you wanted to go and describe kind of what's happening on this page,
Sure. So out of the box technology, you heard a little bit about me, but I work for a company, and the name of the company is Out of the Box Technology. I happen to own it. We have about 50 full-time employees, so we're good size. We have a big group in Portland, Oregon, a big group in Michigan, a big group in Nevada, and then a few others scattered around the country. So we do have a lot of people in a lot of different places. We do have physical offices as well as people work remote, but our whole team is focused on really, I think, two goals: streamline accounting processes for businesses. So I'm the queen of making things, dumbing it down, okay? Because most business owners are not accountants. And so I've got to translate sometimes very complicated business processes and translate them into simple data entry solutions. And so that's what I hope I've done with Xometry. I was a little perplexed at the beginning. So don't feel bad if you were perplexed. I'm an accountant and I still struggle with it for the first 10 minutes. I hung up with them and I said, give me 10 minutes, I'll have this figured out. And I did. So I really enjoy taking complex processes and trying to make them as simple as possible for business owners so that they can follow it and be successful. And then the other thing that we work really hard at doing is providing really good reporting to business owners. So when I meet with somebody, my first question to them when they're trying to architect out how they want to track their financials is, what keeps you up at night? Why can you not sleep? What are you worrying about in your business that you feel like you don't have answers to, right? It's easy to know how much money you have in the bank. You log on to your checking account, but is it easy to know if you're actually profitable? Or are you profitable in a particular line of business or with a particular group of customers or in a particular state or an office, or you have different partners, are they producing, or do you have good commission methodologies or tracking? So like, businesses are complex and you need to be able to make decisions quickly. So my goal is to give you the best operational reporting tools I can using the software. So if you want to just go to the next slide.
Yeah, I do want to real quick, if we could, we've actually got two good questions that came
Sure.
in. So one, Dan, I think this is kind of a one for you from Victor. First of all, Victor, again, giving props. This is very helpful. So, good job, guys. But not sure if anything has changed since a few months ago, but is there a way to import card transactions into QuickBooks from the Xom card? Dan, if you want to take that one.
Yeah, thanks for that question, Victor. So I think around the start of the calendar year, we introduced the ability to download your Xometry card transactions as a CSV file, which you can then upload into QuickBooks. So that was sort of step one to solving this pain point. I will also tell you that both Adam and I were at a internal conference last week where we were talking about our priorities for the rest of the year, and getting a more direct QuickBooks integration was near the top of the list. So we know that this is something that our partners want to see. So the CSV file was sort of our easy step to at least get you some functionality, and then we're working on a tighter QuickBooks integration.
Insider information. I like that, Dan. So
that's right.
No, great answer. And then Jesse had one that I think will go to Lisa. So could you go over a little bit about how you create a job again? You create a job as a sub customer to Xometry question. So I'm going to go back to that slide if you're okay with me.
Yeah.
Kind of pause in here for just a second, Lisa. And I believe it was this one. Is this
right? So the screenshot you're looking at is actually creating the job. I didn't do a screenshot of creating the customer first. You can't create a child until you create a parent. Think of it that way. So Xometry is the parent. And so if I had done both screenshots, the first adding of a customer would be where you see company, it would say Xometry. And there wouldn't be display name as would be Xometry. And that would be it. There wouldn't be anything on the right-hand side where that box wouldn't be checked because it's not a sub customer of anything. It's just a main customer. So first you add the customer and then you add the job. So this screenshot that you're looking at is adding the job once the customer already exists. So you're clicking to add a new customer, type in the job number as the company, and then you're going to check the box that it's a sub customer of Xometry. So Xometry has to exist first, and then you can add the job. Does that help?
I believe so. And Jesse, you'll let us know if you've got any follow-up questions after that explanation.
And same thing in desktop. You have to first add Xometry as a customer, and then you highlight Xometry in the list and you click the button to add a job.
And Jesse does have a follow-up question. So at this point, the order value doesn't come into play until you invoice.
Correct.
Yeah, so we're at this point, we're just creating the job as a sub customer to Xometry, and then later the order value will come into play as we're attributing it to that customer and accounting for it.
Right. So that's a great question because you don't want to recognize the revenue until you've earned it. And in accounting, the revenue recognition happens when you create that invoice. So at the beginning, you're just setting up the job so you can use it in transactions and attach expenses associated with it. But nothing's happening from a revenue standpoint until you create that invoice at the end of the job when the work's completed.
Fantastic answer. Now, I do want to keep putting some questions in the chat here because these have been really, really good questions. But Jesse says, thank you, by the way, Lisa. Now, Lisa, I did kind of interrupt this slide period.
Oh, that's okay.
We'll pass you
That's
the mic back, and if there's any more questions, feel free to put them in the chat, y'all.
Yep. So just so you know what we do, I explained what our goals were, but we basically will help users pick the right software. So depending, some of you are in manufacturing, well, I think a lot of you are, and you may have complicated accounting that needs to go on related to manufacturing. So that is not an easy line of business to be in from an accounting perspective, because you're taking raw materials and you're turning them into different types of finished goods. And sometimes you want to allocate labor into that and capitalize that. So sometimes I get into pretty complex conversations, but we're going to help you decide what software to buy. It's not a one size fits all. We're not, although we showed QuickBooks Online, I would say half my customer base is on desktop. So we're going to tell you the right software to buy to accomplish whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. I am not biased on one over the other. It's really what is a right fit for what you're trying to do. So I love Intuit, but if you call Intuit, they're just going to tell you to buy QuickBooks Online. So that's could be the right move for you, but it might not be. So I'm going to give you my unbiased recommendation on the right software. I promise you that. We can also get you ongoing discounts on both the software, on merchant processing rates, on payroll, anything Intuit related. We're an elite solution provider. So what that means is we are the very top tier of resellers for Intuit. We sell a lot of their product. That's all we do, is sell products and services around Intuit. And so we're going to get you the best discounts that are available out there. And in almost every case, it's better than what you would get going direct with Intuit. We also have experts that can help you with any of these kind of questions or anything you need to know about QuickBooks. If we can't answer it, chances are nobody can. So feel free to work with us on any of those scary things. We understand your industry. This is a phenomenal, I mean, when you guys introduced me to Xometry, I couldn't believe what a great business model this is. I'm just so impressed. I've shared it with several people. They're not quite as excited as I am because they haven't seen it, but I have, and I just think it's such a cool thing that you're connecting suppliers, supply and demand, and helping people get the job done. And it doesn't cost them anything. So like, how cool is that? Ever. Best business model on the planet. So we provide individualized training support, and we can also help with ongoing monthly accounting. If you just want us to reconcile or enter those Xometry purchases for you, we can do that. So that's what we do. So that's our website.
And I can second the, we dropped a very complex, we think about these financial products every day. But for someone coming in cold, it took you all of about 5 minutes to really wrap your head around some pretty complex motions there. So the understanding your industry and the access to the QuickBooks experts, I can definitely firsthand recommend that and say those are definitely true. So Dan, I saw you coming off of mute.
No, I just wanted to also, excuse me, give some snaps to Lisa for how she, as you said, came in, asked us some really critical questions, and then came back and said, this is how you do it. So I would, highly recommend going further conversation with her, as it makes sense for the various
Well, and I
attendees
highly
today.
recommend your tool. I think it's amazing. So I want to get the word out to my manufacturing clients. What a great opportunity for them to get financing.
Now, I think we do have some polls here. Let me get these launched. Oh, shoot. I clicked there. Polling. Okay, so I just opened up the polls. The two questions are you currently using any of Xometry's financial services discussed? And the other one, the second one is, are you interested in learning more about out-of-the-box technology, i.e. talking with Lisa, again in the future? So if you answer yes to the second question, we will, pass along your contact information to Lisa and her team. Obviously no strings attached other than that you'll have a second conversation with Lisa. And then, the first one's just really curious. Was this a group that was attending that had issues with the, accounting for the products they were currently using from Xometry, or a group that had not yet used the financial tools, but and wasn't doing so because they didn't know how to account for them. And so just kind of trying to get a gauge of who's here. So again, are you using any of the Xometry financial services discussed? And are you interested in talking to out of the box technology and Lisa a little bit more? So I'll give that poll just one more second to stay open. Okay, it looks like we've almost got 100% and closed. Awesome. Well, it looks like a ton of people are using Xometry financial services. 82% said that they were, and Lisa, 64% said they'd be interested in talking with you again moving forward. So got a decent amount of phone calls to make for the remainder of the week. Again, kind of want to pause here and open floor on any questions. We're getting close to our time. And Doug Hall has a question here. Can CPA get CPE for this? I'm not totally certain what that.
I think I've got this one.
Okay,
Adam.
yeah.
And Doug, tell me if I got this right. You or someone in your company is a CPA, and you're wondering if you can get some sort of professional credits for attending today. If that is indeed the question, we are not a official, licensing for financial services, institution, so we don't have any connection to that.
I think we do.
Lisa does.
I think we do,
So Lisa, do you think this is worthy of CPE credits?
Yeah, I do. Because we're teaching an accounting topic. So let me find out back at the ranch what we can do. It depends what state you're with. Some states are self-monitored. I do a lot of speaking for the Michigan Association of CPAs, and we used to do private presentations and we were allowed to give CPE credit. So it depends what state you're in. So if you want to contact us after, we'll find out if we can get you CPE credit.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah.
I also want to jump in on the question from Victor that I see that he stopped using the Xom card because it was painful to integrate with QuickBooks. Victor, I feel that, and it is, you know, myself and Adam's mission to correct those problems and hopefully count you back in our card using base. So
I have an
please, you know,
idea. So
please,
I
Lisa.
have a short-term solution for that. Who was that asking? Was that Victor
That was
again?
Victor Kustov.
Victor, I feel like I know Victor already. So Victor, well, can we ask Victor if he's on desktop or online?
Victor, are you on desktop or on? He said we're best buddies, and he's on desktop.
Okay, so for QuickBooks Desktop, and well, let me ask him: is he paying bills, like the vendor bills that he's already entered, and he's deciding to pay by
Yes.
Xometry card? Yes. Okay, so there's a third-party tool. If you have lots of transactions, like you're a heavy Xometry user, or you want to be, which I would think, why not? If you're a heavy Xometry user and there's a lot of bill payment transactions, we can use a third-party tool called Transaction Pro Importer. That's very inexpensive. This would just be temporary until if and when they build the integration, but that you could import bulk transactions into QuickBooks. Like we could lay out a template and then you could import it. So
Awesome. So I just put it's Transaction Pro Importer. Is that
Transaction Pro Importer? It used to be owned by Bay State Consulting. But if you search it, you'll find it. Everybody in my space uses it. We use it every day to build new QuickBooks files and import transfer data from one place to another. So if they're exporting it to Excel or CSV, that's all you need. Then you lay out a template and you import it.
awesome? Yeah, and I do think that our the tool that we're working on will definitely solve for that as well. And Victor said thank you. He said CSV will work, and he's excited to hear about the Transaction Pro. Mike asked, he was double booked and need information that was covered here, and will it be recorded available afterwards? It will be, Mike. What we covered was kind of the best practices here, and Lisa did a fantastic job of putting together some slides with screenshots and a walkthrough. But we will be sending out the recording afterwards. That way I don't have Lisa do a speed round of everything she just covered in the last 45 minutes. But Mike, we will be sending out an email, and it'll be available in the community as well. So I do want to respect our time. We're getting close to last minute. So I'll leave room for one more question if we have anything. If not, at the 12:45 mark, I will wrap us up and say, well, actually, I'll go ahead and say thank you, Lisa, so much for attending. This was fantastic. Dan, again, great presentation. Jesse does have our last question. For orders and expenses made before this, should I attempt to update them to this format, or should I just start doing it this way, clean slate?
Well, gosh only knows what you did to the accounting before. So that's a loaded question because I don't know what may need to be fixed, but I'd say you could just start moving forward, recording new jobs. I would start with a new job, a brand new job. Maybe zero out your Xometry balance if possible. That's a loaded question because I don't know what you've done previously and what the effect on the financials correctly or incorrectly might be.
So maybe
So-
the answer is a clean slate from today and get with Lisa for a phone call with
For history.
technology for history.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a complicated correction. Okay, we can fix anything. So don't panic, but just start with a new one, doing everything the new way, set up the new accounts, put in your new purchases for the new job, and then close it out the way we showed you. And the only thing that might be a little bit awry is the deduction might not zero out your Xometry credit card because it might be missing stuff that wasn't done properly before, but we can fix all that. So just reach out to us and we'll do an appointment to fix it.
Fantastic. Well, I'll stop sharing and bring up our faces to close this out. But again, Lisa, thank you so much. This was fantastic. Dan, you were awesome as well. And to all of our attendees, and especially those that asked such engaging questions, that was fantastic. Really, really enjoyed putting on this event. So what we'll do, we'll produce this recording. We'll put it in the community. We'll send it out via email as well and link to the thread in the community where you can ask more questions and we can get in there and help you guys answer. We'll also connect anyone that said that, yes, they'd like to talk with Lisa. We'll send your contact information over to Lisa and her team will follow up. But just thank you to everyone that attended today. And again, one last thank you to Lisa and Dan. Thank you guys.
Yeah,
Thank
have
you,
a
Adam.
great day, everyone.
Awesome. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.